we are covering a lot of ground here. I think we're going to hit on pretty much every local sports topic outside of the Royals, and we didn't even talk a little current, I think. So I guess the boys in blue are the only one getting left out of this conversation. We're going to touch a lot of ground today, starting with the Kansas City Chiefs because they are off today, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. The only news was that Jalen Watson was placed on injured reserve, which we expected after his injury in San Francisco, but now it's official that he will be out for the foreseeable future. Some reports saying at best case scenario he'd return for the playoffs. Best case scenario. So, Gabe, my intrigue in this isn't just that Jalen Watson is necessarily irreplaceable. It's the fact that the depth of the Chiefs continues to get tested. You see on your screen there, Juju Smith-Schuster, not as serious of an injury. He'll be out against the Raiders. But when you factor in Watson, Juju, along with Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco, Hollywood Brown, and then Charles Omenihu, which they knew, the depth is a real thing that's going to get tested here.
Yeah, I mean, they are already at the point of the season where most other franchises would be, I would say, at a point of no return or struggling. I mean, you've seen for example, the Rams, who have had injuries across their offensive line, injuries to both their best wide receivers, and it tanked the early part of their season. They're at 2-4 now. They've also had a bye just like the Chiefs, so they've played in 6 of the 7 weeks. And we've seen, given reports today, that the Rams are considering trading Cooper Kupp. So as a result,
who is injury prone in his own right,
but the Chiefs might be on the phone for that.
I
don't know. It's possible.
He's got a hefty contract, and I don't know if that's the ideal wide receiver I'd want the Chiefs to trade for. But at this point, I'd take just about anyone.
I would take a guy who once led the league and catches yards and touchdowns all in the same season.
Oh, Cooper Kupp, incredible wide receiver. I just don't know if you want to put all your eggs in a basket of someone who I think is injury prone going forward, because I think at this point you need someone that's reliable, and Cooper Kupp when on the field is very reliable. So I wouldn't not like that, okay? So if that happens, you're going to see a very excited Jared.
Yeah.
For the record.
Yeah.
Okay?
I would hope so.
Just so that part is clear. But I worry about trading for Cooper Kupp and then week 16 he gets hurt. And you've already got, that's the only thing that worries me. But, yes, I think I'd like that. And that's why, Gabe, it's so impressive how they continue to win in a 6-0 fashion despite having a wide receiver core that is so bad. And going to look even worse likely on Sunday against the Raiders, because even if they make it, like if they traded for Cooper Kupp today, would he play on Sunday? I don't know. Because, wait, he has a Thursday night game too,
He has
right?
a Thursday night game, and
he's
expected to play. I'm wondering if it could be a funnel him targets and then trade him the next day kind of thing
and
for
then
the
would
Rams.
he be able to play on Sunday?
No,
Can he play two times in 1 week?
I mean, I think the NFL allows it, but I don't know the rules on that one specifically.
Now I want it to happen just for that. But I give credit to the Chiefs' depth and Brett Veach, because a lot of people are yelling at Brett Veach right now to, hey, make a trade, which I think is fair. And I think it's also fair to give Brett Veach credit for constructing a roster that is good enough to be 6-0 with all these injuries and with the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, that's not playing particularly well. Both things can be true. You can want Brett Veach to make a trade, and you can give credit to Brett Veach for building a coaching staff that's getting the most out of players that on paper maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, and I think that the calculus for the Chiefs is a little different this year compared to most years, in large part because the Chiefs are going for a historic three-peat, and I think they want it way more than most typical years, where if this was 2 years ago, for example, and they were just trying to get back to the Super Bowl and win it after losing in the AFC Championship the year before. I know that's the down year of the Patrick Mahomes era, how spoiled we've been. But I think that this year provides the excuse to be more aggressive than not. And typically I would tend to lean more in that. I agree with Brett Veach most of the time, being more conservative and saving assets and allowing himself to build through the draft, because he's shown that he's hit late round picks, whether it's Jalen Watson, whether it's L'Jarius Sneed, whether it's Trey Smith, Isaiah Pacheco. He's hitting on these late round draft picks, and that's where you keep building the value of the roster to the point where you look at the Chiefs defense and it's up and down the roster. It's guys who they have drafted and developed from Chris Jones all the way on down.
Yes.
And that's what allows them to sustain all these injuries. So I think there's that understanding and that credit to Brett Veach. And then there's also at the same time probably him fighting the urge to not overpay, because I'm sure he wants to have a great roster and a great wide receiver spot to fill and to fit with Patrick Mahomes this year to get this thing done and do something that no one's ever done before. So I know that as much as the Chiefs fans are battling it, I know Brett Veach is battling that too.
Sure. Yeah. Listen, Brett Veach is aware of the wide receiver issue. Okay, this is not. No matter how many times you tweet his name to do something, that's not gonna. He doesn't love seeing Sky Moore be as counted on as he might be counted on right now. So no, I think it's incredibly fascinating how this roster continues to evolve and will continue to. And Gabe, now they've got a 2-game lead over everyone in the AFC. They're going to play a bad Raiders team on Sunday that's going to start Gardner Minshew, it looks like. You can watch that game on KCTV5, and we'll, of course, have full Chiefs coverage on Sunday morning, Price Chopper Game Day, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. with Desmond Moses and myself, and then full reaction on KC Sports Night with Neil Jones and myself Sunday night at 10:30. So we will hear from them tomorrow, but Tuesdays are a good day to also talk a little college football because that's when, as I said, the Chiefs are off, and many of the coaches have talked about the week ahead. The big game in the area, of course, the Sunflower Showdown, Gabe. Going into the year, it felt like the most highly anticipated Sunflower Showdown maybe ever, and KU has not exactly lived up to their end of the bargain of that. But the good news is, for anticipation purposes, they did win handily against Houston, something they'd not been able to do since week 1. And so I think that brings a little bit of juice back into a very important game for both teams.
Yeah, and I think that it's fair to say that KU is better than its record has shown.
Oh, sure,
just based on the fact that if you look into any of the advanced analytics or the net success rate and all of these kinds of things, which I'm sure that some KU fans don't want to see all that kind of stuff because it's like, oh, whatever, they lost. And there's others that are like, man, we've completely given away games. Most of the time in relatively similar fashion, especially if you're talking about the way that they lost at West Virginia and at Arizona State. I think that Chris Kleiman this week talked about KU being dangerous specifically on offense, and that's notable because in Big 12 play, I know it's a 3-game sample size, KU's number 2 in yards per play in the conference. So
but it's the turnovers, man. That's it, and when they're getting those yards, right? A lot of times it's coming early instead of late. But the talent is like, I know Houston's not very good, but the talent that made this roster so anticipated going into the year is still there.
Yeah.
Now it's just a matter of, will they show it on Saturday against Kansas State? I don't know. Do you have a prediction on what KU team we're going to see?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I think that the biggest disparity in talent is probably the special teams units of both teams.
Yeah,
and
frequent a lot of Kansas State games.
Which, exactly. and what we tend to see is K-State take advantage of superior special teams, specifically when they play in Manhattan. And I think that at the very least, even if you are bullish on KU being better than expected or better than the record indicates, it's not reasonable to expect them to win the game because they will probably give up one long kick return or something along those lines, or just I don't know. The secondary is kind of boom or bust as well, whether it's Kobe Bryant having 3 picks or it's getting burnt for game-winning touchdowns by ASU and West Virginia. So I'm interested to see what happens. We haven't seen Avery Johnson in a Sunflower Showdown. We've only seen Jalen Daniels in one of them. Maybe 2 of them. I guess he played when he was like a redshirt freshman back 2020 or something.
Good question.
But
I don't remember the 2020.
We haven't seen him on.
Would have been Skylar Thompson on the other end.
So I'm intrigued to see what it looks like.
I don't think it's fair to say Kansas fans shouldn't expect to win. Well, I think Kansas fans can hope to win, like realistically hope. Expect to win? No, I guess that's right. But going into the year, did you think it was around a 50-50 game and you give the edge to Kansas State because it was in Manhattan?
I think I probably thought it was like a 60-40 game.
Leading Kansas
into the
State?
Year. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not far off there, but that's also a 60-40 game. And that's, KU winning 4 out of 10 times. I don't think we're that high, but
now I think it's like a 75-25 game.
Yeah, that's where I was going to say 70-30. So in a 10 game, if they played 10 times, I think KU can win 3. And so that's why that's not 1 out of 10. That's not exactly. So I hope for a good game, and I hope I don't know what to make of this Kansas squad. Like, I've watched them, and because how much can you read into Houston? It's similar to what we were talking about that game when Mizzou traveled to UMass. What did that mean?
Yeah, it was just
UMass
what they were
wasn't
supposed
as
to
bad
do.
as Houston, or the other way around. Excuse me. Houston's not
Yeah.
as bad as UMass, but it's just hard for me to say like KU is back. But I think there's something to get that monkey off their back, to get some of their mojo back, to feel like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be done. This is how we close a game. So I expect to see a better Kansas team. The question is, how good is Kansas State? Is Kansas State good enough to, even if KU plays well and close to their ceiling, have the Wildcats found their footing? I thought Avery Johnson played really well this last week, passing-wise, because he didn't run it at all, which is an evolution of his game. You mentioned the special teams thing, which I think is a great point by you, and I think is we know of Kansas State special teams, but to the point of saying, yeah, that is absolutely going to be worth something, I think that's key. The defense played well. DJ Giddens continues to be a dude, and how Avery Johnson has spread the ball around I think is also incredibly impressive. It's not like he's just pounding the same guy. So that's where, yes, I think Kansas State is going to win. I think they're the better team, but I think I'd say 70-30, which means let's have a fun Saturday night.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. KU does have the chance where the closing stretch of Big 12 play is just chance after chance after chance to mess with people's season, because it's K-State.
Yes,
it is.
They got Colorado in there.
It's Iowa State, and then it's BYU, and then it's Colorado.
Oh, BYU. There you
go. So it's 4 straight teams that are at the top of the conference.
This was a few days ago, but that BYU Oklahoma State game was bananas.
Absurd.
Like, good Lord.
Friday night Big 12 games have been great.
Yeah,
great
which again,
entertainment.
it's weird from like I feel like I can't love that as much as I should, but that game I did see the ending of. Okay, so that is Saturday night. Saturday afternoon at 2:30, the Missouri Tigers have a pretty massive game where if they beat Alabama, I think you can say it's one of the biggest wins in not just recent Mizzou history, but in Mizzou football history, because what that would mean, Gabe, is one, they're winning at Alabama, which not many people do. I know that's a little bit more common maybe nowadays, and seeing the number 15 ranking by Alabama is also, but it's still Alabama. It's still Tuscaloosa. It's still a team that a lot of people think is really good. It's still a team that is probably pretty good.
Yeah.
And if you look at their schedule after Alabama, with how bad Oklahoma has been, and that was the only bit, and then other teams have played up, but it's still a very winnable schedule to where Mizzou would likely be a one-loss team if they take care of business, and likely going to, and yeah, I mean, if they're a one-loss team with a win at Alabama, they're going to the college football playoff. I feel confident saying that. So that's on the line, Gabe. If you win, it probably puts you into the college football playoff. It gives you national recognition that you maybe haven't had since you beat Oklahoma in 22. Like, I think it's that big, and if you lose, well, chances of you making the college football playoff are essentially done. So, fairly big game.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
is everything I said there fair?
I think it's mostly fair.
Okay.
I think that the fact that the SEC has everybody with one loss at least makes it really interesting, because winning it puts you back in the conversation for going to Atlanta at the start of December. Now,
sure,
whether that's realistic or not, specifically based on the health of Brady Cook, and there was 2 pieces of note that I had from this game today, which was that in Mizzou land, Eli Drinkwitz is closing practice to the media, so nobody's getting to see what's going on there.
Yeah.
And if that's because he wants to maybe check with whether they could run some Wildcat with Luther Burden, those kinds of looks, whether it's a little bit of a dose of Drew Pine.
No, I think it's simply so that no one knows how
good or how
is.
bad it looks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's probably
maybe
the fairest
he's 100%,
assumption.
but they want to say I don't know, or if he's down, they don't want him to know.
Yes,
you know.
Exactly. So there's that on the Mizzou side. On the Alabama side, they're coming off of a loss to Tennessee. 2 weeks prior to that, they lost to Vanderbilt. So maybe their struggle is just going to Tennessee, the state in general. Both their losses have come in there. But the news of the day in Bama land is that they're going to focus on tucking their shirt in around the facility and really get back to the basics and the fundamentals. So I don't know what to make of that, but that's not something that you would see of a Nick Saban Alabama team. So with it being a Kalen DeBoer Bama team, they're just more gettable than typical. It still would be a huge win.
It's still an incredibly talented roster,
but
though.
There's a chance for Mizzou, and I think especially if Brady Cook plays,
I might say it's a 70-30 favoring Alabama.
I would say closer. I'd say closer than that
for an outright win.
Yeah.
I mean it's tougher. Like beginning of the year, I would have said tougher. Would have been closer, even with because Alabama even being better. I just haven't seen Mizzou's offense perform at the level that it can and should. Yeah, I think they absolutely can, but it's just like even last week, that's where Neil was okay. The win over Auburn in itself should be absolutely celebrated. Mizzou fans should be fired up. They should be rallying behind Brady Cook. They should be ecstatic for what that moment was, because that win was awesome for Tiger fans. Okay? Anyone who isn't able to appreciate that, just say, well, what about the future? Should have been Auburn, blah, blah, blah. No. And stop and smell the roses. With that said, I don't think that game means a whole lot for, now the offense is back.
No.
Because it still wasn't great. I mean, they had the two drives in the fourth quarter, which were great, but I don't think that maybe it got some of their confidence back for some reason, but it's not like, that proved that this offense can hang with Alabama. And so that's why I go with the 30-70, just because we haven't seen it. But, if you're talking about capabilities, Mizzou's passing attack can absolutely win a shootout. Then we factor in their great run game. It's possible.
Yeah, I don't know what the spread is.
It was big.
I've not looked at it, but
real-time check.
They may be the line might tell you what they think of Brady Cook's health. Is my biggest guess if it's not close, because the way that Alabama has played recently, I wouldn't say that a healthy Mizzou versus healthy Bama should be anything more than like a touchdown.
Yeah, well, first thing I see, Nebraska's 26-point underdog at Ohio State, so that's hefty. All right, we'll guess the line, Gabe.
I would say, if you're saying it's large, 9.5.
Greater than that.
Wow.
Okay. 13.5.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think Vegas thinks Brady Cook's playing.
That's an odd thing to think, given the injury shouldn't have gotten worse,
or won't be healthy, or won't be if there's no quarterback run in play. It's all those kinds of things.
But he came back and ran. It's not like when he came back he was hobbled. He ran just like he did before. That's why it was crazy. That's why I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but I feel like Brady Cook is going to be fine enough. Will he be 100%? I guess not, but then again,
that's interesting.
We were a little confused by the line against Auburn.
Well, and I think that wouldn't have been as big of a deal if
Cook
Brady
didn't
Cook
get hurt,
but
everybody calling for Drew Pine to take over a quarterback was quickly silenced because he left a lot to be desired. Neil Jones called him Chris Pine on Casey Sports tonight.
I don't want to say anything disrespectful, but I will say that watching like a game of him at ASU, I could have told you not to expect much from Drew Pine.
Well, the Twitter peeps could have used your wisdom before Saturday. But yeah, now I think, at least for a week, the Brady Cook criticism will silence. So, all right, let's talk a little football, because today we had A State of Sporting Kansas City press conference. Peter Vermees, Jake Davis, Eric Tommy recapping the year. And it's interesting to and so Gabe, we can first of all, any generic thoughts about State of Sporting Kansas City?
I'm not absolutely super locked into Sporting KC.
Right.
I would just say it feels like it's consistently underwhelming the last year and a half plus, except for the stretch where they were incredible, making up from a deficit that they started last year.
And then knocking off St. Louis in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it was a great finish last year. I think now I've been known as being more optimistic about Sporting Kansas City than I think a lot of fans that are truly in the weeds. What I would say I thought was very interesting from today's press conference is how Peter Vermees talked about you can't read so much into each result each time and drawing conclusions just based on the result. And how I agree that many games they looked like the better team for, say, 80% of the game, and then one bad mistake cost them, or their inability to make that one extra moment rather than being good, have that one moment of brilliance to take it over the top. And I think this applies to all sports. I think it applied to the Royals last year, where they were not as bad as their 56-106 record was. But when you start reading into each result, you lose confidence. And that's what Peter Vermees said today. Is he says one of the things is when it started a pile, they didn't do a good job as a culture of keeping their confidence high, right? And not getting down, which is understandable when you have loss after loss, especially heartbreak after heartbreak after late loss after late loss. And I agree with that. Now, Sporting Kansas City fans, I don't think they want to hear that. It's a bottom line business. It's win or loss. You are what your record says you are. And when you have that happen over an entire season, obviously this past season was a failure, a disappointment. But I liked how he said that, because I think that's true, especially in a sport like soccer where there's so much action for so long. And it's why maybe they're a little bit closer than their record may indicate. But now they're kind of heading into a rebuild where I don't think we're going to see many of the same guys back. So that kind of resets the deck. But that's what I thought of today's Sporting Presser.
I wonder if with front office changes in the middle of the season, if a little bit of a fresh perspective impacts things, because it does just feel like it got a little stale.
Yeah, and that's where they do have someone calling Mike Burns calling the overall shots now. With Peter Vermees focusing more on the coaching, which I know a lot of people want to see Peter Vermees gone. Fair or not, I think you can make an argument that this is, even though it's a rebuild, it's similar to like the Dayton Moore J.J. Piccolo deal where, well, actually not, but in the idea that it's a different, people that didn't like seeing J.J. Piccolo take the helm because, he's just Dayton Moore 2.0. Clearly he wasn't. But in the same idea of Peter Vermees is still there, but it's a different line of thinking because he's not overseeing the same things that he used to. And that's where, can change come out of that? It can. Will it? I don't know. But I'm fine seeing it play out in the argument that they can make. I think is a fair argument. I give them the benefit of the doubt. I think a lot of Sporting fans disagree. That's fine. I understand you as well. I don't think you're crazy for saying that either. So we're going to wrap things up with some Big 12 women's basketball action because Gabe, the T-Mobile Center, was popping today with all kinds of mascots popping their heads around with a new look Big 12 conference. So if you didn't know the mascots of everyone, freshen up now, okay? If you haven't seen them on the Friday Night College Football that Gabe is degenerately watching, you've got basketball season to look forward to. Overall thoughts on a new look Big 12 conference. Overall thoughts on women's basketball for Kansas State and Kansas.
It's exciting to see that it seems like the last couple of years K-State women's basketball was the Iowa kryptonite, and they gave Caitlin Clark good games pretty consistently with Jeff Mittie and Aoka Lee. Aoka Lee is the preseason Big 12 women's basketball player of the year. They are expected to or picked to win the league. So in Manhattan, they're picked to win the women's side. In Lawrence, they're picked to win the men's side. So the expectations are pretty similar in the Sunflower State for men's and women's hoops. But I would just say that with Aoka with Iowa State's roster and Baylor, there's 3 decent Final Four contenders in the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's not the same depth of a league as it is on the men's side, but there are definitely Final Four contenders in this league. And I'll be interested to see how it plays out, because K-State was good enough last year to get hosting privileges in the NCAA tournament the first weekend. Upset. They didn't take advantage of it, but I think that the goal should absolutely be to be a 2 or a 3 seed again this year.
Absolutely.
And give yourself a chance. So
it's not every year, especially for a program like Kansas State. That's a great program, but it's not. Maybe it'll become even more of a women's basketball powerhouse. I don't know, but like consistently getting the level of talent to have a Big 12 preseason player of the year like Aoka Lee, who scored. What was her total? She scored like 60 points in the game or something. I mean, she's incredible.
Yeah.
You got to take advantage of that. Like, that doesn't come around every year, regardless of how great of a program you have. Similar to how, like, Mizzou, with this Luther Burden era, Mizzou's had a lot of good wide receivers. Starting 6-1 in his sophomore and junior year, that's taking advantage of it. You know, that's you don't know when you're going to have that talent around every year. And so that's where I think it's fair to expect that for Kansas State. And with that, I would say as women's basketball popularity continues to absolutely skyrocket, I hope we don't hold the Jackson Wildcats to a similar bar of tournament success or nothing that I feel like we do oftentimes with the men, in that enjoy the level of women's basketball that's played in the regular season, okay? And even if they do get upset in the tournament, whatever, that doesn't take away for the quality of play that we will see starting not too long from now. Because there's great basketball in Manhattan. Also in Lawrence, you've got a local product in Samaya Nichols there that's played really well, and KU did well in the tournament last year too. I think the expectations are high. They should be, and I think it's a cool time for both schools to capitalize on this invigorated women's basketball fan base right now.
I think that the thing that people have to like wrap their heads around is just that women's college or collegiate women's basketball was behind its start point versus men's, and as a result, I think that the talent gap between the top schools and the bottom schools for a long time was significant, and that's why you'd see UConn beat teams in the NCAA tournament by 80. That's happening a lot less now, and so because of that, you'll see things like K-State having the home court advantage in the NCAA tournament last year and not taking advantage of it. That's going to happen more frequently now because the talent gap has gotten slimmer, and the talent gap at the men's level, because of the transfer portal and guys moving around all these times, it is slim, and that's why you see all of these crazy upsets as well. So I think that the women's game is catching up in that regard of the talent spreading out across the level, and that makes for way more exciting basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that front, speaking of women's basketball, Sophie Cunningham was a generational type player for Mizzou, and they did really well, made the tournament, had some great games. Like, they knocked off, some big-time teams. But I don't know if they took fully advantage of it, because they've also really struggled since she left under head coach Robin Pinchton, who has been there a while, and I think is a good coach. But Mizzou women's basketball is looking to kind of get back to the level that K-State is at right now. And so when you have in college sports, when you're not a blue blood like Kansas, where you can absolutely get incredible talent every single year on the men's side, regardless of if it's football, women's basketball, or men's basketball, you got to take advantage of these moments. Like Mizzou, did they take advantage of having Michael Porter Jr. there one year? No, they did not, because he got hurt. But this stuff like that is, when you have your moments, you got to capitalize. So hopefully both Kansas State and Kansas will, and Mizzou, I guess, all three. I know we're SEC Women's Media Day, not today, but so good times. All right, Gabe, we covered a lot. Shout out the Current. They're also, we'll talk more about them coming up, because they've got the Summer Cup final on Friday. They've got the NWSL playoffs also down the road. Shout out the Mavericks. They won their home opener on Friday. Is there a local sport that we did not touch then? Shout out to Andrew Babalola, committed to Michigan last night. Shout out to Ronnie Hawkins. I don't know. He was just walking behind us. Okay, there we go. James Shields, salute. Have a great weekend, everyone. Not a great weekend. It's Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone. Man. What the heck?